Chapter 2: The Sorting and the Decision. The train ride to Hogwarts was full of excitement, chatter, and the clattering of compartments as students filled the carriages. Harry, who had spent most of his life in isolation, was still adjusting to the loud and bustling world of Hogwarts. He sat across from Ron, who kept up a steady stream of chatter, introducing Harry to everything from the magical snacks to Hogwarts traditions. Harry, for the most part, wasn't listening. His mind was still preoccupied with everything that lay ahead. As they passed through one of the compartments, a tall boy with platinum blonde hair, sharp features, and a presence that seemed to demand attention strutted by. His piercing green eyes scanned the students, and when they landed on Harry, there was a brief flicker of something, perhaps recognition, but then he looked away with a casual, almost dismissive sneer. "Draco Malfoy," Ron muttered, eyes narrowing. "Comes from a big, well-known family. Pure blood, if you're into that sort of thing. Thinks he's better than everyone." Harry watched as Draco walked down the aisle, his chin held high, his steps so deliberate it was almost laughable. "Oh, great. Another one of those I'm better than you types," Harry deadpanned, not really caring. Ron chuckled. "Trust me, he's got enough of that attitude to fill the whole school. Best to stay out of his way." Sure, Harry replied, nodding absently. "As if he even knows I exist." But something about Draco's demeanor stung. It wasn't that Draco had done anything, he hadn't even acknowledged Harry, but there was a feeling in the air, like Harry was being judged for something he didn't even know about. Draco didn't care about Harry, and yet, there it was, that sharp, dismissive gaze. If that wasn't arrogance, Harry didn't know what was. As the train rumbled toward Hogwarts, Harry tried to focus on his conversation with Ron. But Draco's icy silence lingered in the back of his mind, twisting something inside him. What was that about? "Don't worry about Malfoy, mate," Ron said as they made their way to the castle. "He's a Slytherin. Thinks he's got everything figured out, but trust me, you don't want to get involved." Harry smirked, clearly amused by Ron's tone. "Oh, I'm sure I don't," he replied, his sarcasm thick. "You know, I'm really looking forward to making all kinds of best friends tonight." The thought of the sorting ceremony loomed ahead, and Harry couldn't help but feel a small thrill. This was his first step into the world of magic, and now, a school that would be his home. But there was also that little niggling feeling of dread. What if they didn't like him? What if the sorting hat chose something unexpected? As the boat ride across the dark, shimmering lake took them toward Hogwarts, Harry's thoughts drifted again, this time to the sorting hat. Was he really a Gryffindor? He had no idea what to expect, but he sure didn't feel particularly brave or heroic. Then again, maybe it wasn't about bravery, right? They walked through the castle's corridors and entered the Great Hall, the sight of the long tables and enchanted ceiling above them filling Harry with awe. Everything was so grand. The sorting ceremony was underway, and one by one, students were called to the front to be sorted. When his name was finally called, Harry made his way to the front, trying not to trip over his own feet. The room seemed to grow a little quieter as all eyes turned to him, though he barely noticed. He could already feel his sarcasm rising to the occasion, and he fought to keep it in check. The sorting hat was placed on his head, and almost immediately, it began its internal analysis. Intriguing. You could be a Gryffindor, no doubt, full of courage. But there's ambition here, a thirst for power. You might do well in Slytherin. Harry's eyebrow shot up. Slytherin? He almost laughed. This wasn't the cheerful, brave Gryffindor he had imagined, but hey, why not? He'd never been one to fit into anyone's box. And besides, who needed to be like everyone else? The hat continued, "I see it. You have the potential. Not like the others. But you're looking for more, aren't you?" Harry thought for a second, his mind flashing to his encounter with Draco. "What do you think, Hat? You think I'd be better with those twits over there in Gryffindor? Or should I go with the ambitious, power-hungry crowd?" The sorting hat paused. "Interesting. You want to be something more, don't you? Very well, if you insist." "Well, I don't know, Hat," Harry said sarcastically. "You're making me sound like the next Dark Lord or something. Maybe I'll just go with them, do what everyone expects, and end up with Gryffindor." The hat chuckled. "No, Harry Potter. I think you belong in Slytherin." The announcement echoed through the hall. The entire room fell silent, and Harry stood there for a moment, watching as the weight of the decision settled around him. The students' faces reflected a mixture of shock, confusion, and something Harry couldn't quite place. "Wait, what?" someone whispered from the Gryffindor table. "No way," another voice muttered, a tone of disbelief cutting through the silence. "Harry Potter, Slytherin? He's supposed to be a Gryffindor." Harry gave a dry laugh, clearly enjoying the shock on everyone's face. Yeah, funny how that works, hey, he said under his breath, but loud enough for a few people to hear. Ron's face was a picture of shock as he stood up, his jaw hanging open. What? Harry, you're in Slytherin, he sputtered. But you're... Yeah, I know, Harry interrupted, casting a glance back toward the Gryffindor table with a raised eyebrow. I don't really fit the brave and nobles thing, do I? The whispers only grew louder, the noise spreading across the room like wildfire. Students exchanged stunned glances. Ron, still reeling, couldn't get a word out, and Hermione, who had been sitting quietly, looked at Harry, wide-eyed. From the Slytherin table, some students leaned forward, their eyes narrowing as they scrutinized him. There was no immediate approval or disdain, just an almost calculating curiosity. Among them, Draco's eyes briefly met Harry's. He didn't smile or frown, but there was something in the way he looked at Harry that made Harry wonder whether Draco was amused or intrigued. The shock in the room was palpable. The whispers grew louder by the second, and Harry could hardly hold back his grin. The stares, the confusion, it was all exactly what he wanted. Let them think what they wanted. Harry was here to prove that he didn't have to follow anyone's expectations. Well, Harry said, tossing his hair over his shoulder as he settled down at the Slytherin table. This is going to be fun. And with that, the murmurs of disbelief continued, but Harry didn't care. He'd made his choice, and he wasn't going to let anyone tell him who he was supposed to be.